we have Habler's theory of opportunity cost. It is represented by, the options are indifference curve, isoquant, reaction curve, and production possibility curve. So if we know the concept of Habler's theory of opportunity cost, it's fully based on the production possibility curve. So again, it's very simple over here, that the answer would be, it's a direct question that it shows that is production possibility curve. So as represented by the production possibility curve, it's also shown in the graphical way over here. Then we have an exchange rate, which also takes into account the relative prices of products in the countries being compared to, is known as. So when we compare the exchange rate of each country, it's very at relative price, it's very obvious that it's the real exchange rate. So even this is theory part that you will understand, or you'll learn when you understand the theory properly. Then we have which of the following is consistent with the idea of expansionary fiscal policy. So here we can see 4 options, and before going to the options, we can just analyze or just remember in our brains itself what a fiscal policy is. So a fiscal policy is always related to government, and the monetary policy is always related to money, and RBI takes care of it, right? So here we are having 4 options. Out of these, only one has a government word in it. So either you can take a wild guess for that if you don't know or if you don't understand the other options. But I'll just explain all the options, and the correct answer is definitely the first one. That is, it shows the fact that government increases expenditure during recession. So what are the other options? The fact that congestion charges reduce traffic in the city? No. The fact that people's income increase the amount that they pay? No. So all these options can clearly be cut off, and we have only one option that is showing the government increase expenditure during recession. So that is option A. So here we have, find the minor of element 8 in the determinant, and the module is given over here. So we have to find the minor of element 8. So it's a very basic question, and it's very easy to answer that as well. We move on to the answer page, and here I'll show you how do we determine the answer. Okay, so here we have to find the minor of element 8. So how do we find that? Whenever a number is given, at that point of time, we look into the opposite of, or say these 4 numbers would be taken into consideration. Say suppose I'll give you an example, say 1 to 8, 4, 5, 7, 6, 9 and 12. So if it's asked to take the minor element of 4, what would we do? We'll take into consideration 2, 8, 9 and 12. So if it's asked to take the minor of, say, any other number, that is, say 2, what would we do? We have to take into consideration 4, 6, 7 and 12. If we are asked to find the minor of element 6, then this would be the minor of element 6. So it's a very basic thing. I don't need to give much explanation as we have learned this in detail. So here we have to find the minor of element 8, that is 8 over here. So we'll be taking into consideration these 4 numbers. So when we do that, we get 4 9s are 36, and say 5 6 are 30. So we'll get answer as 6. So that would be the right answer. Next, we move on to the question, that is where we have to find the marginal cost and the total cost is given. So whenever TC is given, what is TC, or how do we find out MC? MC is always TC by Q, right? So here, when TC is given and we have to find the MC, we'll take the differentiation of it. So how do we take the differentiation? Here we have 1000 plus 120x plus 14x square plus 3 plus x cube. So when we take the differentiation of the same, this would be 0, this would be 120, plus this would be 2 14s are 28 x plus 3x square. So there's only one option. So when we look into the options, it's very simple because here there's only one option that's given to in 120. So even if you don't know the correct answer or you have confusion with the square or cube and everything, if you just know the basics, that is the number n would be equal to 0, then whichever is having say 1x would convert into 1, and whatever is there, these, even if you don't know this formula, if you know the basic concept of x would be cut out and only 120 would remain, or say 1000 would be cut out and only 0 would be there. So if you know the basics, you'll be able to answer this because there's only one option that is showing 120 over here and the others are showing 120x square. There's no way that it would be x square. So otherwise it has to be integral that we are doing, but here we are doing the differentiation. So when we do the differentiation, it would be mc is equal to tc by q, and say in this case the x. So here we have only one option that is correct, and that is 120 plus 28x plus 3x square, and that's a very easy question. So no need to give much explanation about this because it can be derived mathematically. Next we move on. If the value of the standard deviation is 3 and that of arithmetic mean is 9, then find the value of coefficient of variation. So how do we do that? There's a formula for it. So next we move on to the formula that is given here. The coefficient of variation, it measures the dispersion of the data set relative to its mean, and it is defined as the standard deviation of the data set divided by the mean. So how do we find the coefficient of variation? So in order to find that, we have standard deviation by mean. So in this formula, it's very directly given. We have the standard deviation as well as the mean for it. So when we just place it, that is standard deviation is given as 3 and arithmetic mean is given as 9, into 100, we get 33.33%. So that is option B is the correct answer. So it's very simple, and if you just remember this formula, that is of coefficient of variation, if you remember standard deviation by mean, and as it's expressed into percentage, we have to do it into 100. So that's it. If you just have to remember the formula for the same, that is coefficient of variation is equal to standard deviation by mean into 100. Next we have, for an economy, the marginal propensity to consume, that is the MPC, is equal to 3.4 and the marginal tax rate is 1 by 9. So the value of multiplier we have to find over here. So again, it's very simple and it's very everything is given in the question. You have to just put it into the formula. So the formula for the same is, it's given over here, multiplier is equal to 1 divided by 1 minus MPC plus MPC into MTR. So the MPC over here stands for marginal propensity to consume, that is given as 3 by 4, and the MTR over here stands for the marginal tax rate, which is given as 1 by 9. So again, it's very easy to find the value of the multiplier. You just have to remember the formula for the same, and I'll write it again. That is 1 divided by 1 minus MPC plus MPC into MTR. So just place the given values as given, and that is MPC is 3 by 4 plus MPC 3 by 4 into 1 by 9. So it's very simple to solve this as well, and when you just solve the same, you'll get answer as 3. Next, we have a very theoretical question, that is, in which year was the Kisan credit card started? So we have few options, that is 1995, 1998, 1994 or 2000. So it's very important to understand what this is as well as the year, because see, probably for this year 2022 it was asked the year, and say in the coming years, they might ask it something else related to the Kisan credit card. So it's not necessary that they would ask only year every year. So here we have just a summation, or say a summary of what a Kisan credit card is. Then we move on to the answer. So the Kisan credit card scheme aims at providing adequate and timely credit support from the banking system under a single window, with the flexible and simplified procedures to the farmers for this cultivation. So it was launched to mitigate any financial shortcomings experienced by farmers during crop cultivation. So what I feel is, rather than just doing the previous year questions and just finding directly the answers, it would be better if you go through the questions and also the nearby questions to it. So like, what is Kisan credit card? If you understand that, it would be easier to answer all the questions. So now we move on to the answer, that is in which year the Kisan credit card was started. So that is in the year 1998, that is option B. So what was the use of Kisan credit card? It helps in providing adequate and timely credit support for the banking system. So it was mostly there for the farmers, for their cultivation, and it was a timely and adequate credit support, and it was launched to mitigate any financial shortcomings that the farmers had experienced. So these are the important or the key points regarding the Kisan credit card. You can remember that, as well as the year, that is 1998. We move on to the next question, that is, if one of the regression coefficient's value is greater than 1, then the value of the second regression coefficient must be. So we look into the answer, that is option A. That is, if one of the regression coefficient is greater than 1, then the second regression coefficient must always be less than 1. So what is a regression coefficient? So usually in regression coefficient, we have coefficients that represent the change in the dependent variable, that is y, associated with the 1 unit change in the independent variable, right? So when we look into that, the product of two regression coefficients equals the square of the correlation coefficient, which is always less than or equal to 1. So it's the product of two regression coefficients that always will be equal to, or uh, which would always be less than or equal to 1. So in that case, here it's given that one of the regression coefficient is greater than 1. Then in that case, the second regression would be less than 1. So it's a very logical question again. Next, we move on the imposition of a tariff. The welfare of a country improves irrespective of any other factor when the deadweight loss due to production and consumption distribution is greater than the terms of trade gain, when the terms of trade gains is greater than the losses due to production and consumption distribution, or under no circumstances. So whenever we look into the question, we'll first read the question, the options, then again read the question correctly, so that you don't take the wrong answer. Or sometimes your brain just when in yes or no questions, your brain just reads it in the wrong way, and that's how most people make mistakes. So again, we'll read the question, that is, on the imposition of a tariff, the welfare of the country improves in how, or how does it improve? So the answer given over here is option C, that is, when the terms of trade gains is greater than the losses due to production and consumption distribution. So now when we look into each of the options, we can see that first is irrespective of any factor, but that won't be the case because welfare is occurring, and what would be improving? Or how is the country improving? Irrespective of any factor, no. When the deadweight loss is greater, no. Under no circumstances, no. So there's only one option remaining, that is, when the terms of trade gains is greater than the losses. So it's again very logical that when gain is greater than loss, and That's why I again mentioned that read the question again so that you'll understand clearly what the question means. And based on that, you can identify the option. So here we have option C, that is the terms of trade effect refers to the change in the relative prices of exports and imports. And if a tariff improves the terms of trade sufficiently, it can lead to an overall welfare gain as well. So next we move on.